Hey, how's it going out there? My name is Mark, and I am the creator of Throttle Racing. I'm a 55-year-old aerospace engineer, and I'm just a big kid at heart who loves to build and make things, and I saw this as a big challenge. Last year, I lost my job because of COVID and found myself at home playing with Hot Wheels, okay, while I was looking for another job. That's really how I got started. So I'm going to walk you through how I built it and why I built a drift pad, and hopefully you'll enjoy. Hopefully you can see all this. But hey, let's get started. So back in June 2020, I built a drift pad. But let's stop there. The real inspiration for me starting anything was my dad. My dad built this gorgeous train set. It's been like 10 years in the making. And he's always been very creative. And I wanted to build one. In fact, these are pictures I drew when I was 12 and 13 of a train set I wanted to build. Of course, I never built it. But let's get back to drifting. So my son, who is now 25, he's the one that's having to do the cars while I use my Android phone in my first effort to build a drift pad. And you can see we tried lots of cars. We wanted to see, how are they going to perform? And it was hit and miss. And I was without a job, so I wasn't going to build anything. But once I got a job and got settled, I did. And this is the same drift pad that I built on a table. I'm in my garage. And then it led to more and more effort. I wanted to build an entire track, and I sort of had an idea. You could see there I had an idea for a bridge. I had an idea, okay, this is how I want it to turn from the start. I want the two cars to come down, drift onto a highway. But look, you can see the effort and the materials and just the detail. If I got it wrong, this track was going to be a mess. Now here's an idea that I had that I had to scrap. But as it grew and grew, you can see there in the lower corner, this was the second drift pad. And I had built this last summer, but I had it tucked away for several months. So this white material you see is called coroplast, and realtors use it for signs. Politicians use it. You see it stuck in the ground. That white stuff, where it's clear, coroplast is really slick, and it works well as a surface. Here at the end, I was going to do a jump. I thought, I'll make a jump. This at the beginning, I actually had an uphill climb, and you can see the first turn. The corkscrew used to be a single lane. Well, that wasn't going to work too well. But you can see as my idea grew, you can kind of see the chicane there, what we call snake pit chicane. That was coming into view. And then the second drift. So I was building it in my garage, and it got to a point where, okay, now I got to tear this thing down and put it upstairs in the room over the garage, which is what I did. And here are more details of the chicane and what eventually became Gravediggers Tunnel. I had to practice painting. I practiced, that's poster board. Here I bought the Crash Racer set, and I made the first turn. And then it's Christmas time, and I'm watching football, and my wife, thank you, Beth, gave me the space to do this. So the whole time I'm nervous as ever. You can see all the detail here. In the very first drift, I had to shim things. I had to get it right, balance it. If I got it wrong, and I started building all this stuff around it, well, again, it was going to be a wasted effort. It was kind of nerve-wracking. It was a kind of a very emotional relationship with this track, because it wasn't just a matter of me laying down a few pieces and off I go, or easy peasy, adjustments. So I wanted you to see here, I built it modular, like that's 7 different tables all stacked together, and then came the cardboard. And then you could see the first resemblance of the egg beater, which was when I taped it together with painter's tape, it worked really well. And then when I glued it together, it's like, oh, suddenly it's a lot firmer. I used contact paper. That's contact paper that I sprayed. Eventually I took it off, and I just went ahead and sprayed the coroplast. But you can see as it grew, then came the more serious stuff. It got to a point where I couldn't use the track for the cars anymore. I had to trust that I did the best I could, lay down this plaster cloth, and unsanded grout. So it was a soupy mix of unsanded grout laid on top, and then it kept growing and growing. And so now it's starting to look more like, I guess, a train set and less like a Hot Wheels track. But I really wanted an off-road looking track. So, you can see here the Lewis Hanford Highway going into the corkscrew, kind of that was starting to gel. But again, for the longest time, I couldn't drive the cars on any of this because there was a lot of dust and whatnot. So I decided ahead of time to start painting things, finishing them, and trying and test driving the cars. And then I would continue working on the track and get it all dirty, and then I have to clean it up, and I'd try again. It was quite an iterative process. That is acrylic paint. I would water it down. Now I'm red, green, brown colorblind. So my daughter would have to come in and help me. Okay, Dad, that looks like the right colors. And so I just kept going. And I grew up in Colorado, so this was a pretty easy theme to try to match, right? So I did the best I could. I wanted it to look kind of that southwestern look. And you can see here, it started taking shape as I kept painting. And this is a really enjoyable process for me. I know some people, hey, they just want to race the cars, push them down the track. But I really wanted to make it look good. It was either going to be a good-looking track that didn't work, or it was going to be a good-looking track that worked. And it's kind of a little bit of both. You know, I had to tweak things as I went. So there you can see the second drift. And I wanted to make a rock face, so I made it gray. That one of the last things I finished was that track up top. I was very afraid to finish it, but look, you can see down here the second drift, cliffside, and then over R.P. Mills Bridge. Now that's the first bridge, that's Steamroller Bridge, and one of the last areas I finished was up there where the WD-40 cans are, the Chavano Cafe. That was one of the last areas I finished. And you can also see some of those makeup brushes. And I now am the proud owner of probably as many makeup brushes as my wife, because she gave me all her old makeup brushes, and they really proved valuable for doing this work. Came the trees, little bushes, all this I bought from Woodland Scenics. And, that's where the expense started to kick in. But I figured, hey, I'm this far along. I really want to make it look nice. So I bought the sand, I bought the grass that you could spray, and the trees. I built the trees. I really wanted to take this as far as I could to make it look realistic. Here you can see the Crash Racer set. I had to connect it with the coroplast that I had previously built. And then I painted the top two tracks there and put the trees in. So now we're getting close. Now I'm beginning to see, okay, this track is actually working. That Porter Truss bridge that you see there is nothing more than balsa wood pieces that I glued. You can actually remove it. But I wanted, again, to just add as much realism as possible because it was part of the process. I looked at my dad's stuff, I saw what he had done when I was younger, and I really wanted to make something as best I could. So yeah, you can see here more finishing up on this side. There's what never really became the Chavano River. And then, of course, whenever I had to paint, you see the towels, I had to put the towels up. If I had to sand, I really just had to be careful and take my time. But again, that was part of the process. That was the fun. You can see the colors really start popping when I put the grass down. When you start gluing that grass down, and by the way, that's isopropyl alcohol with Mod Podge glue mixed into a watery substance, and then it works great. There you can start to see the finish line down to the town of Last Gasp, past the egg beater, more trees, put in more trees. And really, this, again, was part of the fun, exercising my creativity to make it look realistic. Added some gravel there. At one point I was going to put a little outhouse. That was where that white spot was, but then I gave up and I just decided to get a cafe. So that little white spot, that no longer exists. But I would take pictures and look at that and try to add details as I got creative. But let's go back to the beginning. This is where I started. Watching little cars go down tracks and making adjustments to make them drift. And I want to leave you with this thought. You don't have to do something huge like I did. You can have fun and use your creativity and still come up with good results with a camera phone. Thank you for tuning into my channel.